from the Jack and Joan Stratter Studio in beautiful CCM at the University of Cincinnati, it's the Dennis Daniel Show. Tonight's guest, musician Brentalfloss. And your announcer, me, Belldandy. And now here's your host. He is the 2011 Bearcast Lifetime Achievement Award winner, Mr. Dennis Daniel.
I got a long sideburns and my hair slicked back. I'm coming to your town in my pink Cadillac. I'm just a honky-tonk man. I'm just a honky-tonk man. I'm just a honky-tonk man. I'm cool, I'm cocky, I'm bad.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, you successfully composed yourself back to BearcastRadio.com's greatest talk show segment, The Dennis Daniel Show. I am your host. I am the music genius known as Dentalfloss. Wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. And the first ever recipient of the Bearcast Radio Lifetime Achievement Award, Dennis Daniel. And of course, folks, I'm excited because we continue the summer of biggerness and our road to Otakon with another wonderful edition of the greatest talk show of all time. And I don't mean Phil Donahue. That guy's crazy. But anyway, folks, last time we had Erica Schroeder on the air. It was great. It was crazy. I still can't get that mental image of Akiza as Rosie O'Donnell out of my head. I've got this mental scar that won't go away. But I have to move on. I have to build a bridge and move on. Because tonight on the Dennis Daniel Show, we have got musician Brentalfloss. And no, Brentalfloss is not Brazilian dental floss, for those who are wondering. Now, folks, if you were to ask me, Dennis, what would happen if popular video game music had lyrics? I would say, get out of my face before I karate chop your head up your ass. But we don't have to ask that question anymore. And you know why? Because of this guy, Brentalfloss. You know, he asked himself, man, what would happen if this piece of video game music had lyrics? The end result, we get these crazy songs, and they're kooky, they're crazy, they're weird. We have video game pieces that have never even been questioned to have music or lyrics. So you got this guy, Brentalfloss. This guy's like the 8-bit Beethoven or the 16-bit Bach. I don't know where this guy comes up with this idea. I don't know if he's drinking NyQuil or if he's smoking the marijuana. But this guy produces some incredibly funny stuff. And I met him at A&G Ohio earlier in March. He's a really, really wonderful guy. Very nice, very approachable. And the guy kicks so much ass. I gotta get that out right now. I'm a big BF fan. And that isn't Brazilian flower or butt pheasant. I'm going to stop with that right now. But anyway, back to Brentalfloss. What can I say? The guy's a boss. The guy is a G. The guy is a badass. And he's got a brand new CD out, Bits of Me. And we're going to talk about that later on in the show. And for those of you who are hitting the convention scene, and you know who you are, he's probably going to be performing at some big-time conventions. I know he's going to be performing Friday night at Otakon, because I checked his website, Brentalfloss.com. I mean, anyone could check it. I'm just saving you guys the energy. Of course, we'll talk about that later on in the show as well. And maybe, just maybe, we'll learn a little something about the 8-bit Beethoven himself. And that's the best kind of interview that you can have. Well, maybe one where you have some explosions and some fireworks, maybe a bald eagle screech in the background. I really should have took my medication this morning. But anyway, folks, let's go ahead and get right into this. My guest tonight is a popular video game musician, and he's got a new CD out, Bits of Me, to go along with what if the CD had lyrics? He answered the question, what if video game music had lyrics? So ladies and gentlemen, please give it up. He is the one. He is the only. He is Mr. Brentalfloss.
I am Dr. Mario and I am saving lives. I look different in this game. I am Dr. Mario and I prescribe high fives. Let's see best medicine, so you fell down. In the mushroom kingdom, I'm the finest dog by far. I got my degree by watching Ocean's
Brentalfloss, thank you, and welcome to the Dennis Daniels Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Brent. I think I've got a squeal.
Wow.
Yeah, that was.
Do you feel better now?
Yes. Blasted ponies. They're getting. Oh, you gosh, you gotta watch out for those ponies, though.
Boo!
Oh, shut up!
Yeah, ponies. I watch out for ponies, but more often I watch out for bronies because.
Oh, yeah, you gotta watch out for them bronies there. Oh, yeah, bro hoof and clopping and whatnot there. Oh, you gotta be careful there, don't you know? Let's go ahead and get into this. What got you interested in music?
Why do birds fly? I really don't know how to answer that question. I think that, some people like chocolate and some people don't, and some people are good at math and some aren't. And I just, at a pretty young age, would make up silly little songs and, at like 7 or 8 years old, just started playing the piano. I think, what got me into it, I couldn't tell you. I just liked it. But what kept me around, I think, was probably a combination of the attention that I got from, performing and working with music, but also the personal satisfaction because, probably the first, 3 years of me playing the piano and just sort of learning how to do it myself, it wasn't really a performance thing. It was exploration, It was all about learning what I could do and getting really happy when I learned a new thing I could do or a new chord or a new chord progression. So, I can't tell you what got me into it, but yeah, those two things are definitely what kept me around.
That's pretty cool, You enjoy doing something. In the meantime, you're honing your craft at the same time. So, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
Or if it ain't broke, you're not trying. So, here's the $50 question, Brent. What inspired you to add lyrics to video game music?
This is another one of those hard to answer ones, but I think it just really, at the end of the day, comes down to a combination of love for the games, but also really a lot of love for the music. I liked I should say, the first video I did in the With Lyrics series, which you talked about, was Mega Man 3 with lyrics, the title theme of Mega Man 3, and I just loved that song so much and had for a long time. And, to me, that song is up there, the tune, is up there with, like, Stairway to Heaven, Beethoven's Fifth. It's a really strong piece of music and very important in my life. So the fact that I had just gotten a degree in basically songwriting with an emphasis on lyrics kind of stands to reason I would go, hey, what can I do to innovate on this thing? How can I be a part of this song I already love so much from a game that I love as well? And that is sort of what it came out of. So, while the games are very important, I think that what really drew me to it, like a magnet, was just loving the music so much.
Let's not forget, you're a gamer at heart, and these games are a critical part of both yours and my childhood. I can tell you many a countless night when I would play Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and try to beat the Death Egg stage, only to die every time, trying to beat the Robotnik, and then having to start all the way back at Green Hill Zone and working my way back there. And eventually I just gave up and then waited for the cheat codes to come out and just did that. But that's a completely different story. But you're taking your childhood and you're enhancing it with your own palette of creativity, your lyrics and your rhyming and your verbiage. It's incredible, and you're now making, I guess you could say, small career out of this because you've got a gigantic following on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, and of course you're even going to conventions and performing, which we'll talk about later on in the show. So that's really cool that you can share your love with other people who love the same thing that you love.
Yeah, it definitely is a privilege. I try not to take that for granted because, like when you go to a lot of conventions and you meet a lot of people who, think they know you and you really actually don't know them, there are times you could feel a little bit claustrophobic or a little bit overwhelmed, but it's important to remember, like you said, that ultimately we're just one big family of people who like the same thing and have that in common.
It's an awesome feeling, that you can come together and celebrate what makes this world great. The world has got so many things to get us down about. The economy's not doing good, and the president's kind of, but there's one thing that still unites us as a country, a nation, and a globe: video games. And if you could add a little bit of humor to that by tweaking these lyrics and putting them in video games, then that is cause for celebration, my friend.
Well, thank you.
So, how did the name Brentalfloss come together? Were you flossing one day? Dental floss. My name's Brent. That kind of sounds like dent. So, Brentalfloss.
If you would like to believe that story, that would probably be great, because it's definitely more interesting than the true story. Really, I just kind of, I had my real name is Brent Black, black like the plague. And, and I had a AOL, screen name that was Brent Black, switching the L and the R. And I guess I had a lot of friends that were dyslexic or something, because they would always screw it up and spell it correctly. And I was like, I got to get rid of this. I got to have an email address that encompasses me somehow. I don't want it to be just about music, because I also do theater. I don't want it to be just about theater, because I also do music. But what's the uniting thing? And I thought, I guess the uniting thing is humor and just being kind of a cheesy, goofy guy. So what's a way I can do a play on words with my own name? And it could have been Brenter of Attention. It could have been Brentral Park, but it ended up being Brentalfloss. And it was just a screen name that led to another handle on YouTube. And, once thousands of people were watching these videos, it's kind of like, well, that's my name, I guess. So it stuck.
Now, what goes into making a video game song with lyrics?
Well, it's a little bit different every time. I think that, one concept that I use a lot is the concept of anchors and boats. And when you're creating something, and you're kind of doing it all yourself, and there's lots of ways to start, you have to start with an anchor, and then all the boats can get tied to that. So with Mega Man 3 with lyrics, the anchor was just that I loved the song. So all the boats are the details. But, with Castlevania 2 with lyrics, for instance, the anchor was the story of the game was just really funny to me. So I made that the anchor. It's kind of like, there's a lot of different metaphors to use, but it has to do with, what's the most important focus of this? And it's not always the music, although sometimes it is. DuckTales, for instance. DuckTales is a game that I rented from Blockbuster when I was 8 years old. And I remembered it being very hard. I didn't get very far in it, and I certainly did not remember the moon theme. But when I heard the moon theme as an adult, I was like, this is really good. And it reminded me of DuckTales, the cartoon. And, as much as it was funny, the idea of Scrooge McDuck going to the moon, all I wanted to do was just be a part of that song in some way. So that's the beginning. The beginning is always either, I guess what I'm trying to say is the beginning is always centered around one aspect of it. With Tetris, for instance, it was this concept I created of, women especially like Tetris, things like that. Once that happens, it's a matter of sitting down with the tune, picking the tune, really. For instance, with the Castlevania 2, there were a few options. I went ahead and did Bloody Tears. I thought that was the most ubiquitous Castlevania tune from that game. But it's writing lyrics, and there's people I think a lot of times are like, why don't you do, more of these videos? And it's a much longer process. It's kind of like, I don't know, as silly as this stuff is, I don't want to take it too seriously, but my process ends up being like, aging cheese or aging whiskey. I'll write a first draft, and then a lot of times I won't touch it for a month, 2 months, 6 months, and then when I feel like it's ready, I'll just kind of pull it out, dust it off, give it a really good revision, and then we talk about production. So, the fact that I kind of, I'm sort of in charge of every step of the process makes it where, it's great because I'm kind of a control freak, but it's also like, I'm sort of constantly juggling all these different projects at once. So it's like how to move them all forward and not take too long. But yeah, once I give it the second revision and I feel like it's heading towards an actual production, I just start thinking about how I would shoot it, where I would shoot it. And because most of that involves just me. I end up shooting it, editing it. That's after recording the thing. And all those steps fall into place, and then I pop it up on the internet there. It's a pretty good assessment of the process.
Well, yeah, I've seen some of your videos. Like at A&G Ohio, they aired the Zelda with lyrics video during the Legend of Zelda musical that they played. It's pretty cool that you insert yourself into the video game backgrounds. And what inspired you to start making music videos to go with the songs?
Well, it was really a matter of me thinking it would be really fun to add lyrics to the Mega Man 3 title theme, and I did. And I had just gotten, and I know I'm about to draw the ire of a bunch of people that hate Macs, but really, I don't care. I had just gotten a MacBook Pro that had, had what at that time was the new iMovie, and I had never really learned any editing software before, but I figured I had a decent eye for comedy when it comes to editing. So I really just sat there and, thought, well, I already have a YouTube channel and nobody's watching it. I may as well just make a video of this and see how it does. When it did well, that's when I went, okay, this is, Mega Man 3 with lyrics, within a few months of me releasing it, had been seen by more people than had ever seen me in a play or a musical combined, because I did a lot of theater growing up. And I went, okay, this is definitely, and I was also, by the way, working towards, success in the musical theater world, which I still am in the background. But, it's one of those things where when people kind of say, hey, we want more of this, and a lot of them say that, hundreds of thousands of them say that, you kind of go, well, I'm going to do more of that. And so, as far as adding video, it was just a natural progression because as fun as it is to hear music that's done well, the video could really sell the jokes better and tease both senses, as well as be a little bit more of a ubiquitously shared file format on the internet.
They talk, you listen, and you give them what they want. And that's supply and demand, baby, because you, Brentalfloss, are an internet commodity.
There you go. That's me. I'm like bananas.
Yes. So I bet a lot of people ask you this, but how do you pick a song to turn into a song with lyrics? I mean, there are thousands upon millions of songs out there that are all worthy of having their own lyrics. So you have a tough call to narrow them down into the ones that just make the deal here. So what do you use? I guess what kind of preferences do you use to select the song that you will make into a song with lyrics?
Well, I mean, let's assume that I've already decided that I want to do a song from a game, right? Because sometimes I decide that I just want to tackle a game, but I haven't picked the tune yet. So let's for this one assume that I know which game I'm going to do. Picking which tune from that game is really, there's no complex rubric. It's not some music theory equation. It's just which one gets my blood pumping, which one makes me hum along when I hear it, which one do I hope they're going to play when I go see, a concert at like MagFest or that kind of, convention. And because the thing is, at some point, as much as I want to give people what they want, if I'm not invested in any way in a song, it makes it really hard to see that song through the 50 or 100 man-hours that any one video takes when you're doing it by yourself. So, in the case of Castlevania 2, Bloody Tears was a song that I just felt like had great rhythm for comedy. Some songs, frankly, don't have great comic rhythm. For instance, I've started doing a panel at conventions called Write a Lyric with Brentalfloss. And that panel, the first time I did it was actually the last time I saw you at A&G. It went really well there because it was a very lyrical song. It was actually Snake Man's theme from Mega Man 3. Very lyrical and lots of sharp, pointy rock music edges to make it, to aid in the comedy. This last convention I went to, which was called Too Many Games in Philly, the room at the panel, when I was doing this same panel concept, it picked Dusty Garden Galaxy from Super Mario Galaxy. And we all kind of discovered together that tune does not lend itself to comedy. It's this gorgeous ballad, but it's really hard to turn that into comedy just because sometimes rhythm has more to do with comedy than tempo or anything else. So, if I'm looking for a song to do it with lyrics from, generally, especially if it's a classic, humorous with lyrics and not one of the more experimental things I sometimes try. But it has to do with, is the song catchy? Does it get stuck in my head? Because if it doesn't get stuck in my head, it's probably not going to get stuck in anybody else's head. At that point, it's about, does it have comic rhythm? Can I imagine different places where phrases would go? Especially if there's a phrase that has to do with the title of the game or some concept in the game that fits really nicely into the rhythm. For instance, Bloody Tears starts out with ba-ba-bum, and when I realized I could take those three notes and say Dracula, it was like, yeah, that's it, I'm sold. When I realized that da-da, da-da-da from DuckTales could be Crazy Duck in Space, I was hooked. When I realized that in Civilization, that, the Baba Yetu theme from Civilization 4 could be, there's a game called Civilization, I was like, yep, that's it, I got it. So, again, anchors and boats, right? There's always a way in, but once you pick the way in, you have to, center your efforts around that. So these are all different things that go into my decisions of which songs to actually bring to life.
So it's not just, random. You actually sit down, you listen to the song, and you decide, whether or not you can actually make something out of it. So all this talk about boats and anchors kind of make me seasick right now.
Hey there, this is Brock, Pewter City gym leader and Pokemon breeder. And this is the All-Taste Explosion with the Boogaloo Shrimp, featuring John Pokemon.
Are there certain songs that people have said they wanted to see made into a with lyrics, but you can't really find any way to make them into a with lyrics song?
Yeah, actually, I've got a pretty applicable story about that. For years, as you can imagine, most of the classic retro video game heroes, I'm sorry to say, are from Nintendo games. Certainly there are Toe Jam and Earl, Sonic and Tails, characters like that. But the vast majority of characters in the mythos of games are Nintendo, and one of the staples of Nintendo's lineup is Samus Aran from Metroid. So for years people were saying, you really should do a Metroid with lyrics, and I just felt like, the few pieces of music that really have a sense of being lyrical from Metroid, they don't really feel like they lend themselves to comedy, and more importantly, I don't know that there's a whole lot about the game Metroid that's funny. It's kind of serious, it's kind of dark, it's kind of isolated, and the only joke I could think of had to do with the surprise at the end of the first Metroid game that Samus was a girl. But I had already done a video about that called Metroid in 5 Seconds. So I had kind of already covered that joke. Now, the happy ending to this story is that last summer on tour, I was kind of down in the dumps. I hadn't seen my girlfriend in a long time, and I was just really homesick and kind of like not really having a good time of it. And I sort of, I think I read a message on YouTube, or maybe I just remembered that people were asking for Metroid with lyrics. And I thought to myself in my head, there's nothing funny about Metroid. And I thought, maybe there doesn't have to be anything funny about Metroid. So in the end, I wrote a lyric that's a medley of Metroid themes from the original Metroid that's actually kind of serious and sort of tells a story that adds on to the original story of the game, shows a different side of it, and that's actually going to be a video that'll be fully computer animated, my very first fully computer animated video later on this year. So, to answer your question, yes, there are often tunes that I'm not sure what to do with, but I think ultimately, as I expand the concept of Brentalfloss and as I include other emotional tones, not just funny and not just satirical, but also sometimes serious and sometimes heartfelt, I think I could cover a lot more ground that way.
Well, I think there are some songs out there that, just shouldn't be messed with. I think one of those, of course, would be Final Fantasy VII's One Winged Angel. I mean, just the choir doing the opera for that, that's perfect. That's like trying to colorize Casablanca. It's going to end in a disaster. So I think that there are some songs that are fine just the way they are. They don't need any comedy added to them. They don't need any fancy lyrics added to them. And I'm sure you understand that as well.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I personally conflicted about the original Mario theme, like the most famous, World 1, Level 1 Super Mario theme. It is so beloved, and it's so seems like the obvious choice for this kind of thing. But every time I try to write lyrics to it, it just seems like Mario is not just one game. It's not just a game franchise. He's kind of like Mickey Mouse now. He's kind of a mascot that represents so much. But to somehow do, a lyric that tries to encompass all of that just seems like it would be really tough. Plus, how many jokes have been made about every single aspect of Mario? How could I really do something original? So until I find something to do that's original with that, I'm going to go ahead and stick with my story that, that's one of those songs that you just shouldn't mess with.
Well, we kind of snuck in the back door with Dr. Mario, which, by the way, is my favorite song, for those wondering. It's just that you fell down. That part's that's probably the best part of the entire song. Well, except at the end where you're going, I'm playing with the piano and I'm playing good piano.
Thank you. That's actually an example of how things are different in the studio working on CDs than they are, just singing into my own personal mic by myself for the videos. Because, for the videos, it's just me. I really don't have a director. I am the director. And the material is very fresh. In fact, a lot of times I haven't memorized it. I'm reading off of a page that is, has notes on it and has certain words scrawled out that I changed after I printed it up. So it's all very fresh when I record it for a video. By the time the CD comes around, I know it much better, and I'll just goof off in the studio. And then half the time we'll keep those little things where I goofed off just because they're fun and funny. So I do appreciate you noticing that. And there's a lot more of that stuff on Bits of Me. So fans of the video versions need not feel like they've already heard it because there's lots of elements they haven't heard yet. It's sort of like a different take on all of them.
Do you have a favorite video game song?
Definitely. Mega Man 3 title theme with lyrics. It was such a favorite that it drove me to, inadvertently start this entire series and become an internet whatever I am.
It was the song that started it all, Mega Man 3. Now on YouTube.
Pretty much. Mm-hmm.
I do like Mega Man 3. It's got a very nice beat to it. Make a techno remix, you can dance to it. I'm going out of my mind again. Now, in tying in with our Summer of Biggerness 2 and the Road to Otakon, we know that you will be performing at Otakon. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
I can. I'm glad you gave me a chance to set the record straight. My show dates page, I wish there was some option to tell people that that I'm going to be at a show during a weekend, but that I don't know which day I'm going to be there on that weekend, because I applied for both a panel and a concert at Otakon. I was denied a concert because, the thing is, it's a very heavily anime convention, and not only am I zero anime and 100% video games, but also I'm R-rated, which is a little bit tricky for some conventions, depending on how they want to cover themselves and keep things safe for everybody. So that said, I am certainly doing a panel, and, one of my best panels last year was Otakon, but I don't yet know what day it'll be on, because as you can imagine, even the cons that are run the best when the con is actually going on, even most of them don't actually give the, presenters, I should say, their schedules till pretty soon before the convention. So I'm hoping that I'll know within a few weeks when I'm actually doing the panel, but it should be really fun. Sneak peeks of things people have never seen before, answering questions, and generally having a good time.
Well, at Otakon, it's go big or go home. 30,000 people there every year. That's the average. So if there's any place, beside E3 would probably be a dream come true format. If there was any other place that you want to perform at, Brental, it would be Otakon. You got the East Coast, you got 30,000 people, probably 95% of them in costume, and they all come to see all these crazy anime guests and musicians perform, maybe we'll have to make Gaia Hirano get a little lost so we can get some Brentalfloss concert time going on there. You know what I mean?
We'll see. I mean, at some point, if a convention wants to keep themselves family friendly, and I'm not sure if that's Otakon's reasoning, but that's the thing that comes up with PAX East is the fact that I think that trying to make what I've done into something G-rated, it's one thing for like the G-rated version of the CD that I released, but in a live show setting, there's just something missing when I try to censor myself. So it does make it a little bit difficult with certain conventions. But yeah, Otakon, regardless of exactly what they have me do, the fact that I get some airtime there, or rather stage time, and get to, participate is pretty great.
Yeah, well, I would love to see a Brentalfloss. I've actually seen a Brentalfloss concert, by the way. Well, of course, I've seen actually a concert this year, and it was kick-ass. You've got something that, some of these other performers are lacking. I can't put my finger on it, nor do I pretty much want to, but it's something that needs to be highlighted, featured. And I think Otakon, their mascot's a crab, Brent. There could be 20,000 dirty jokes made about that crabby alone. So I think do an after-hour concert. They have after-hour stuff. They have 18 plus.
Well, that's actually a good point. The thing is, anytime someone like me will tell a convention, hey, I'm really important, you should really give me a stage. The thing is that the people at the top are getting messages like that from people who are legitimately important, people who are legitimately at the top of large, cults of fans, and also people that are complete nobodies and everything in between. So it's so hard for them to judge. The only way they can judge is if they get a lot of suggestions from fans. So anyone listening who's a fan, and that includes you, if there's a certain convention that you'd like to see me at some point, me inviting myself only works maybe 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 times. If they haven't heard of me, they haven't heard of me. But if they hear from enough fans that they ought to get me in the show, well, then eventually that actually is way worth more than me just vouching for myself. So the power is yours.
People, if you want to see Brentalfloss perform at a convention near you, let them know that you want Brent. We got to think of a clever slogan name.
Give us the floss. I have no idea.
No, we can't do toss the floss because that'll be more of a deterrent.
Yeah.
Again, we'll think of this at the end of the show. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about this right now. You have a new CD out, Bits of Me. So tell me, Brent, why in the world should my listeners buy this awesome new CD, which they can get on your site, Brentalfloss.com, and on iTunes for a very reasonable price, $9.99?
That's correct. It's $9.99 on iTunes, a little bit cheaper on Bandcamp, a little bit cheaper than that on Amazon. And if you actually want to go ahead and buy the physical version, it's just a few dollars more at levelupstudios.com. So, yeah, like you said, very reasonable. But why should they buy it? I think that there's something for everyone. I think that, like if someone even has a passing knowledge of video games, we try to make it where of course, there are some jokes you can only get if you played a certain game. But I really feel strongly about the fact that I picked really great tunes. There's some original stuff, so even hardcore fans will have songs they've never heard. Casual fans will get introduced to like this library of all these funny songs from video games, in a way that is much more crystal clear, remastered, re-recorded, and in many cases, new arrangements and instrumentation, orchestration from the YouTube version. So it's just a solid pack of music. There's everything from dark humor to, kind of quiet, heartfelt moments to all-out rock and, everything in between. Got something for everybody, and I'm pretty proud of it. So I hope that answers your question.
From what I've heard, it is good. It is good. It's like finger licking good. It's like having audio chocolate, if you will. And you've got some good songs here. You've got The Truth About Toad, the Super Mario Brothers 2 Overworld theme. Kind of scared about that one, actually. You got the Mike Tyson Punch-Out with lyrics. You know, one song that I feel should have lyrics is Mike Tyson Punch-Out. You got that, and one I'm looking super forward to, Banjo-Kazooie with lyrics. I love Banjo-Kazooie. I play that game like gangbusters. You've got 18 tracks, including new songs and remastered classics. You know, the classics that we have come to know with the name Brentalfloss. Remastered, redigitized, repackaged, and re-eddy to listen to again. And you can get it for $12.99. It's got all this great stuff. And of course, don't forget the original. What if the CD had lyrics? Also a classic that you can get on Brentalfloss.com.
Indeed.
Oh, I wonder if I sold it enough there for you. Did I sell it? Yeah, I think I did.
I think you did well. Yeah, no, well done.
And you've also got a T-shirt out. What if this T-shirt had lyrics? And this is actually badass because it's your face with all these different words around it. What inspired that?
Well, basically that's done by an artist named Josh Merman. He also did a shirt you may have seen that actually has Mega Man, the shape of Mega Man, the silhouette of Mega Man, made out of words that describe him. And I saw that art style and I thought, you know, words are the only thing that really differentiate me from anybody else. The fact that some people work in music, and while I do compose music and certainly I'm a musician, the thing that separates me from anybody else in the video game music community is the way that I use words. So I thought, this is perfect. I want to see if he could actually pull off taking lyrics that I've written for songs and some of the more iconic phrases and making an image of me out of them. And he did very well.
Oh, yes. This guy has got some chops, ladies and gentlemen. Check it out at levelupstudios.com. They got it's video game and internet culture goods made with experience. Wonder if they used rare candies on those.
Hello there. This is Mrs. Ketchum, Ash's mother. You know, when I worry about my Ash traveling to train his Pikachu and all his adorable Pokemon, I listen to BearcastRadio.com, celebrating 10 years as the University of Cincinnati's student internet radio station. Come to think of it, I really do enjoy both the All-Taste Explosion with the Boogaloo Shrimp featuring John Pokemon and the Dennis Daniels Show. And to all their listeners out there, don't forget to change your underwear every single day.
Are you working on any new songs besides what you've already released on the new Bits of Me?
Yeah, I'm working on a Little Nemo with lyrics video. It's kind of having a difficult time in production right now because it's the first time that I'm collaborating on the production end of a with lyrics video with anyone else. The actual production element of the videos has generally been like my Willy Wonka chocolate. You know, it's kind of me, it's my style. But I've worked with Underbelly. They're a YouTube channel, an online entertainment brand. I've worked with them a few times, and we just felt like it was time to try to collaborate on it with lyrics together because it has so much better production values. But anyway, this is becoming a very long story. The short version is working on a Little Nemo with lyrics, trying to make it look really good, and definitely rising to the challenge of combining two different styles and two different viewpoints of both me and Underbelly. But that's coming. I'm also, certainly already thinking about my next official recording just because we were pretty much done with Bits of Me in early April, and we've had some difficulties with the actual printing and shipping of the CD. But, I've spiritually been done working on it for over 2 months. So I'm definitely thinking about whether I want to follow up with an EP or just start to work on another full-length album. I definitely believe that you don't want to crank out something really fast after something else because, it'll suffer in terms of quality, and also sometimes there's a reason to space out things like the Star Wars movies, to make them not all in 1 year or not 1 year apart, but rather 2 or 3. There's something about the anticipation of the new one. that makes it even better, and also gives the production side more time to make it great. But that said, I really want to do something with more authenticity. And by that, I guess I mean that there's lots of times projects that I want to do that I'm afraid to do because they don't match the kind of classic brand. They don't match the satirical, snarky, goofy stuff that I did early on with Brentalfloss. But I've been dipping my toes the last year or so. Things like, or even before that, things like the Tutu Blues, which is a song that basically does kind of an earnest, heartfelt blues song out of the Mario underwater theme from the first Mario game. And I was really scared to put that up. If people out there haven't heard it, it's kind of sad, and it's kind of a metaphor for life, you know, how a lot of us are just looking for that special person, and it's kind of like Mario going to that castle over and over again, and every time he thinks he's found it, he has it. And I was scared people were going to reject that and go, we don't want to see this. We want to see more humor. But the fan community was really open to it. So in that vein, I feel like I want to move forward with the combination of things that I find really funny, but also things that I find interesting, stories I want to tell with these characters, and new ways to look at stuff, as well as, like you said earlier, we talked about songs that I always wanted to do something with but couldn't figure out how. You know, trying to face those challenges, find some way to make a great tune into a great full song. So that's kind of what the future's looking like in terms of recordings for me.
And that is why I call you the 8-bit Beethoven, because you can take anything and give it your own Brentalfloss twist, and it's pure poetry. And I actually got to hear the underwater, and that it was sad. It was sad, but it was so beautiful. See, and that's what I like about you, Brent. You don't just have this goofy slapstick comedy. You're like Frosted Mini Wheats. You have the sugary side. It's fun. Everyone likes it. But on the back, you have the grainy, weedy side, and it's it's serious. You have an undertaste. You know, you can be serious. You can be this poetic guy, and then everyone's gonna be thinking Brentalfloss is now a giant mini wheat.
I got to tell you, that's the best thing you've said for the entirety of this interview. I've got an undertaste, everybody. I just want you to know, I've got an undertaste. So look out for that. I might just call the next CD Undertaste. Or Undertasteful. There we go. Yeah. There we go. No, I like that, man. I like that analogy a lot. Thanks. And I appreciate you and other people kind of letting me try new things. Because the scariest thing as a YouTube, I'm going to go ahead and use the word artist. It's a little bit pretentious, but...
No, not at all.
The thing about that's scary is that you're kind of trapped. The Angry Video Game Nerd is and by the way, he's a good friend of mine and one of my absolute idols in the scene, but the Angry Video Game Nerd, I think, has faced challenges with this because I think that he had a formula that worked. People said, give us more of this. And after a while, I feel like it just seemed to me that the series suffered a little bit of repetitive-itis, you know, like it was like kind of the same formula each time. So if you didn't really know the game very well, you sort of knew what to expect. And I think he wanted to, you know, that's why you saw him doing stuff like Board James, where he takes away the angry character and just talks about games, or the stuff he did for Spike TV, which was very cool. Eventually, he had to branch out from that character, and, you know, I think the world has really shown him that was okay, because I think he's done well with all the other brands. And in the same way, I'm kind of trying to stick with the good stuff, keep cranking out a good number of with lyrics videos, and you know, obviously official recordings every year, but also just trying new things and seeing if they work. And if they do, incorporating those into the brand as well. And it sounds very corporate, but at the end of the day, it's just a matter of, you know, if you're a chef, you don't want to just cook the same dish every day. You want to try different things. You want to perfect them. You want to get better at your craft. And as an artist, I'm trying to do the same thing while still feeding myself and not having to go back to catering and temping. So that's my challenge.
Well, as I see it, Brent, your music's like a gobstopper. Your album's like the everlasting gobstopper. You want to enjoy them slowly, because eventually you'll wear it out and there'll be nothing, and then you're gonna have to wait until the next one. So you want to enjoy the flavor that is Brentalfloss as long as you can, because who knows when the next song might be. It might be next week, next month, next year. All I know is that these songs, they're like little mini gobstoppers, and you just got to keep sucking and enjoying the sweet goodness.
Keep on sucking, everybody.
Well, don't keep.
You heard it here.
Oh gosh, man, we're gonna cancel for this in a minute. Okay, well, all right. Now time for a little bit of serious aspect. Here at the College Conservatory of Music here at the University of Cincinnati, we have a lot of aspiring musicians. Majors, drama majors, theater majors, vocal majors. Do you have any advice for any musician out there that wants to journey on the path that you've taken?
Well, first off, don't, because then you would just be doing what I do. But I think I understand what you're actually asking.
Well, let me try it one more time. Do you have any advice for those that want to get their start in music and, maybe be the next Brentalfloss or...
Yeah, I can answer that. I think I'm going to open this up to pretty much all aspiring artists who hope to create something that people like, maybe even for which they could get paid if they're lucky. I'm going to use an example that I came up with sometime last year, and I've just basically it's become my stock answer for this stuff. But I think it's really nice, and we'll see what you think. But one thing I've learned from watching other people on YouTube and other people just in the world doing all kinds of things is that everyone as an artist, whether they're a musician or a novelist or a YouTube performer or whatever, everyone's kind of like a kitchen. It doesn't have every ingredient. It doesn't have every plate or type of serving utensil. We're all an incomplete kitchen. Every one of us individuals is. So you have to accept that first off. You have to accept that if you have no cocoa powder, you can't make chocolate. If you have no sugar, you can't make sweet things, but that's okay. Because if everyone is a unique, incomplete kitchen, that means that there's something you can make in that kitchen that nobody else can make. And invariably, it's the best thing that person can make because it is unique. I did political rants on YouTube, which is something everybody, not everybody, but plenty of people do political rants on YouTube. Mine weren't especially interesting, so they only got a couple hundred views over a couple of years. I played piano versions of video game songs. And while they were okay, they didn't set themselves apart because there was nothing terribly unique about them. But then I took my knowledge of musical theater writing, lyric writing, and composing that I'd, personally been honing for years and years and years, along with my sense of humor, my love of video games, and this unique combination of factors that was only inside my head, inside my heart and my soul. I took those things and finally made something only I could make. Video games with lyrics, but not just that. Other people have made that, but in my own way. So the good news is that everyone has something that only they can do. But if you keep on trying to make some dish that somebody else makes, then you're not even, taking advantage of what's great about your kitchen, right? So if you're a composer, if you're an aspiring YouTube performer, stand-up comedian, novelist, artist, whatever, your goal, or at least what I would challenge you with, is to figure out what you can do that only you can do. And invariably, that'll end up being the best thing you can do, whether you like it or not. That's my advice for the aspiring musician, artist, what have you.
We've seen, anyone can play the piano. Anyone can do a podcast. But what they need is something that separates them from the others. For example, I am a stuttering ding-dong. And not many people can do that. Well, maybe, but I make it look good. And I feel that if you can find your niche and what separates you from the other ham and eggers, then you've got the world by the palm of your hand. And you have found that. I mean, anyone can put a lyric to a video game, but only you can make it funny or serious or the way that you can make it.
Exactly. That's just my personal style. And what's great about that is that, sometimes kids will write me and ask me permission to do a with lyrics video of some tune, as if I've copyrighted the content. And it's like, when I started out, I didn't ask Weird Al for permission to add lyrics to a song that weren't there before. And Weird Al didn't ask Alan Sherman, and Alan Sherman didn't ask Spike Jones. And there's this tradition of adding lyrics to pre-existing songs that goes back, I'm sure, thousands and thousands of years, since the very beginning of songs. I do it in my way, but that doesn't mean somebody else can't do it in a way that's completely unique. Like the Megas have their way, and Dwayne and Brando, who have since broken up, but they rap over video game music. They have their way. Mega Ran has his way, and I welcome anybody else. But it's like, I think that what you can say about all those people that I just mentioned is we've all found a way to do it in a way that's unique because it's our way of doing it, and doing it in a way that only we could.
And I feel, I kind of feel that, doing something that's already been done, that's boring. No one wants to see it. And now, if you could play an instrument on your head, that'd be kind of cool to see. But we need a surge of creativity. I think with the opening of YouTube and all these social networks and how much they're gathering attention-wise, if you can harness that to your advantage and do something that's out of the blue, not seen every day, and something that grabs people's attention and says, hey, look at me, I'm doing this that's never been done before, then you can make something of yourself. And you are the perfect example of that. You've taken something that you love, you've added your own Brently goodness to it, and you've made a potential career out of doing it. Of course, you're expecting to go into this full time, but you've got your good foot in the door, and you're going to keep doing this because you've got a very huge fan base, and you've got people who love you. I bet you got people all around the world that say, we want Brentalfloss, and we actually have if you guys want to see Brentalfloss at your concert, according to Justin_Kiro, the Floss Man must cometh.
Well, there's a lot of places to which I would like to cometh. The difficulty there is that I think a lot of people think I'm doing really well financially. Like they think, oh, this guy sold a bunch of CDs, so he must be doing really well. But I don't. I live a comfortable life, I guess. But it's not like people in Sweden. And by the way, I have a disproportionately large following in Sweden. Hi to all my Swedish listeners.
Brentalfloss.
Brentalfloss. That's probably not how they talk. I've lost all of them now. Sorry. Anyway, but I would love to go to Sweden, but I would not love to pay $1,200 for a plane ticket when I'm going to end up losing most of that money and not being able to make it back. It's a much more complicated thing, and I think a lot of times the fans that shout the loudest that they want me to come to their town are a little young and maybe don't understand the fact that requires a lot of people and a lot of things to kind of line up. That said, like I said earlier, I always invite people to try to make stuff happen. If there were some country where people wanted to crowdsource money together to buy a plane ticket and secure a venue, that's great. The problem, and I would go. Germany, Sweden, Brazil, Australia, all these places are places that I would love to go. Other UK destinations, and there's many, many more. But it's difficult when there's only so much time that I have to get work done. I love getting work done on the weekends, and I end up spending a lot of weekends out of town. So it is definitely a balance trying to hit all these places because there are so many towns in the world that I could possibly play, and only so much me. So, it's difficult. But like I said, if you're listening out there and you have access to a music venue and you somehow have access to a certain amount of money, or you want to crowdsource it on, Kickstarter, I'm open to these ideas. I would love to do shows. I mostly do on the East Coast because I can take a bus there if it's on the East Coast. But I'm definitely open to all possibilities. So contact@brentalfloss.com is my email address. And, if you have one of those ideas and you're feeling saucy about it, hit me up.
Brentalfloss at Carnegie Hall. It's got a nice ring to it.
Unlikely.
No. if I could talk to Arnie Roth about getting Distant Worlds to play at Madison Square Garden, we're definitely going to try to get you at Carnegie Hall, Brentalfloss. Brentalfloss on Broadway. Get you going at Hollywood with 3 or 4 L's. But no, I think that there are a lot of people who would love to see Brentalfloss play the Hollywood Bowl in California, or Carnegie Hall, or maybe, dare I say, Madison Square Garden. Maybe.
We'll see. If Video Games Live ever plays Madison Square Garden, there's a very good chance I could play.
Yes. Video Games Live. If they do, you got to be there and play. If that Link girl that plays the flute can be on there, man, you should be on there and no sweat.
Now, to be fair, I've met Laura. Her name is Laura. She's super talented.
Yeah.
And one thing I didn't realize until I went to Video Games Live is that while she is Flute Link, she also got a degree in opera and is an amazing opera singer. So, fun fact about Flute Link. An accomplished singer.
See? And you learned something. I think this interview was a win-win for everybody. And we learned a little bit more about the man called Brentalfloss. Well, anyway, folks, check out Brentalfloss.com. Get the new CD, Bits of Me. Brent, thank you so much for being on the show. This was truly awesome, and I cannot wait for the next song and ask, what if that song had lyrics?
Well, thank you, man.
This is the Dennis Daniels Show. Until we see you next time, answer this. What if the Dennis Daniels Show had lyrics? Good night, everybody.